Stats that Matt showed you for my baseline period are of no surprise to me because I am completely obsessed with my ring and I look at it every day. Every morning, it's the first thing that I do when I wake up. I know that's a little bit sad, but it's true. So just as an example of the sorts of things that I look at, when I wake up in the morning, I'm mostly interested in how well I slept the night before. So in the bottom left corner, you can see a sleep score of 85. That's kind of an overall measure of what my sleep was like. It was pretty good on that night. I got a crown, so that always makes me feel happy. The Oura Ring also shows how much time I've been in bed, what my resting heart rate was, and how much of the time in bed I was actually asleep for. And then over to the right, it breaks my sleep up into various stages. So for this particular night, my REM sleep, which is about halfway down in red, was a little bit lower than it normally is. So REM is when you do your dreaming. So for me, it comes up in red because I usually have a bit more REM sleep than that. But my deep sleep, which is another stage of sleep, which is more about recovery of the body and mind, that was pretty normal. So that's why it shows up in blue. So as I said, I check this every morning and look at my step count during the day via my phone. And in the 4 months leading up to my diagnosis, I didn't have any idea from the stats I was seeing from Oura that there was anything wrong. That's on a day-by-day basis. Although that is the period when the tumour would have started to grow, according to my oncologist. So, Matt, did the Oura Ring, when you look at sort of a zoomed out basis of my stats, did it know something more than I did at that time?
Yes. So when we zoom out and we look at the baseline period and also the pre-diagnosis period, that was the 4 months. We can see there that the sleep efficiency, which is in red during that pre-diagnosis period, actually the average doesn't really change that much. The sort of thick red line in the middle there. There are some dips, but we've seen some, dips before. So there's nothing too interesting there. But what it is quite interesting is the deep sleep score. So you can see there that the average, which is the red line, of the deep sleep score, seems to really reduce in those later months of 2024. And you can see there are quite a few spikes downwards. So whilst sleep efficiency itself wasn't really impacted that much, then again, that's time in bed, time asleep rather, as a percentage of your time in bed. You can see that the deep sleep is suffering somewhat. And that surprised us, and we wondered whether or not that was a sign of some impending health issues, which of course Amanda wasn't yet aware of. But interestingly, it's deep sleep. So deep sleep score, which is the one you can see in the middle there, to the bottom. Deep sleep seems to have reduced. So that is quite interesting. But is it statistically significant? Well, we had a look at that. And we had a look at the relationship between the mean and the distribution. So the mean you've got there on the x-axis, and the y-axis is your distribution. And we looked at what the p-value likelihood was, that the mean was statistically different and distribution was statistically different. Now the data, the dots that appear then in the bottom quadrant, they are the variables that have changed considerably in those 4 months leading up to diagnosis compared to the baseline. So you can see there are several health metrics there, such as, for example, deep sleep score, restfulness, sleep latency. So all of those seem to be statistically different in those 4 months. So we don't really understand why, but it is certainly interesting.